live.
We are.
Hey, everyone.
Hi. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Aaron here
Jody,
from
team
Tuttle.
Realty.
We really need to work on this better. Anyway, so we got a pretty good packed show for you tonight. It won't be very long, but it's going to be very informative. Tonight's topic, you can see above my head, is manipulation tactics. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't get your attention, nothing will.
Right.
We've got some stuff you want to look out for in the real estate world. And I'm all about transparency and showing you what's behind the curtain of the Wizard of Oz. That way you're better informed and you can see things coming a mile away and you're never caught off guard and you're always prepared.
Correct.
So that's kind of where we're going with tonight's show.
Yes.
I know you like to do the look outside first just because, it's the weather girl in you.
It's the weather girl
so
in me.
It's nice out there. Look at the sunset.
It's the backyard meteorologist in me.
That's right. So
Well, that is pretty.
It is a pretty sunset.
Yeah.
Anytime you get some high clouds around, little cirrus clouds and
Yeah.
some sun, always makes some pretty colors. So
Yeah, that's for sure.
excited about that. Okay. Well, like we talked about, think about sales, right? Of a salesman, saleswoman, salesperson, whatever. The point being is either have a good product that sells itself,
Yes.
or you don't, and now you have to conform to some really unethical behavior to get someone to buy something, and you have to manipulate them. So hence tonight's topic. So we're going to jump about here in a second, but first, and this kind of leads up to part of the reason why we're having this discussion for tonight.
Right.
Buying a home has gotten very expensive.
It has.
And we're not supposed to tell you that. Interest rates have gotten very high. And again, we're not supposed to dwell on that. We're supposed to get your attention elsewhere. That's what the industry teaches us as realtors. And I detest that because I like truth and honesty and calling a spade a spade.
Right.
So this is kind of leading up into that. So just look at the data. I pulled this chart. This is for the, and I'll just show it to you on the map here. This is the Oklahoma MLS map for our area. And we see the light brown, Canadian County, Oklahoma, Logan, Cleveland, McLean, Grady, etc. to Seminole, Okfuskee. So that is the area we're talking about. There are other areas in the state for the MLS service. Now, we do not belong to those. So we kind of focus here in central Oklahoma.
Right.
So this is where this data is coming from, but that way you now know what we're talking about. So here is a look at the median price of a home going back to 2019.
Right.
At the bottom of this scale, if you can make that out, about $160,000. So
Yes.
2019, that's what most people were buying a home in that price range and paying for their home.
Yeah.
Of course, COVID happened. Everybody knows what happened after all that, right?
Yeah.
And the price just kept going up and going up and going up. It peaked, July of last year.
Yeah.
And then dropped a little bit and then came back up to still pretty close where it was about a year ago. So well over $250,000. So again, take the peak at $260 and we started at $160.
Right.
That's $100,000 difference in the exact same home, the exact same building, the same structure.
Correct.
No difference other than a few years went by. Now, homes normally appreciate historically, and it varies from market to market. We're like an average around 3% or so here in Oklahoma.
Correct.
Well, this is obviously a lot higher than that rate. So that's a problem, right? And so the price of the home has put a lot of people out of the market because, hey, I didn't realize I was going to have to save an extra $100,000 coming up, to afford a home that I could have afforded back in 2019.
Well, their income has to be.
Yeah, and is your income going up to match what's happened since COVID? I doubt it. Mine hasn't. Yours hasn't.
Right.
So everybody's hurting as a result of that. Inflation's going up. The government likes to hide those numbers, those little CPI fancy terms. Everybody who goes to the grocery store knows the better. There's some things you just can't hide, and that's what comes out of your pocketbook, right? Let's take a look at the interest rates. We've been hurting on this platform for a while for the 30-year fixed.
Right. 7%.
Yeah. And so,
Although it did tick down.
Yeah, did it get into the sixes for a second?
Yeah, for a day or two.
For a hot minute.
Yeah.
I know. Otherwise, they were up at about 7.5 just a couple weeks ago.
I get excited when I see that.
And so that's the other thing. They also train, they being the industry, experts that feed realtors training information, tell you to jump on these huge changes in the rates from 7.5 to 7.25. Wow, look at the rates, they're down. honestly, that 1/4% makes no difference. That 0.5% makes no difference. If you want a real big drop, you go down a 3% drop. All of a sudden, that 7 turns into a 4. Now, that is a significant drop in rates. These little 1/4% movements, that's not going to mean much at all. We're talking about a couple of bucks at the end of the day. So it's funny is because they don't want us to focus on how expensive a house is becoming and how the interest rates are not dropping. And every day you watch these people, and it's funny because I've tuned out because it's the same stuff every day.
Just regurgitated
a different way. And they look for these little nuggets, these little highlights of positivity in the market. I'm like, the market stinks. It's not a good market. Deal with it. But they have to make money. And they got to get you to view, so they talk about the Jerome Powell. Who's coming up to talk today? What's he going to say? Is he going to drop rates? We'll discuss it for the next hour. And then the next day comes out, he didn't drop rates. Let's discuss that for an hour. And we're like, who cares? When the market is good, we're all going to know it because the price of the homes will either level off or stop this ridiculous climb. And number 2, those interest rates are going to drop. Perfect. Now, if neither one of those happens, guess what? The only thing that's going to fix that is you getting comfortable with the fact we're in a higher priced environment and your employer decided to pay you accordingly. And if those 2 factors don't happen, stagnant.
That's right.
And right now we're stagnant. And there's a lot of rah, hang in there team. Realtors, it's a tough business.
Oh, it is.
So tell them what being a realtor is really like as soon as you wake up in the morning.
Well, you're unemployed.
Yeah.
You're an unemployed person. You work for free.
Yeah.
Every day. Showing homes to people. Oh, I don't really like this one. Well, this one's not quite for us. Let's keep looking.
Right.
So another day you wake up, same thing. Show all your clients homes. And, you know.
And that can go on for days.
Oh, it can go on for weeks. I've had it go on for about a year.
Okay. So
I carted a person around for a year. Yeah.
Okay, so what happens all that time is, like you said,
fine.
you're not getting paid though.
No, you're not.
So when it comes time to keeping the lights on, putting food on the table, what are you going to do? You got zero income coming in until you get that client to the closing table.
Yeah.
Versus the dotted line that's signed, then the payday comes, and that closing date can be, if it's a great market, things are moving fast, there's a lot of competition, it's go. It could be 30 days. If it's not, it could be a year.
Well,
and how do you survive on a year with no income? So being a realtor is not what people think it is. It's not fast, easy money. Now, maybe there's sections of history where that does happen, but those are few and far between a normal, everyday type situation.
Right, exactly.
So again, that factors into what tonight's topic is going to be. So we're giving you all these little nuggets because they're all important to get the big picture.
Yeah.
But speaking of big picture, let's see what the greater Oklahoma City metro area is looking like right now.
Okay.
So this is your market watch.
Yes, for the last 7 days. So we're looking at 477 new listings came to market, which is, I always like to see that. We've had 410 homes close out. So closed. Pending sales, 448. So those 2 numbers, wow, they're like double what we have going on for new listings. Price decreases, 438. Now that... Okay, so
that's huge.
That is huge. And I'm sure days on market is a little bit longer on average now as well. That's par for the course, right? So you make price adjustments depending on your personal needs. So that I'm not surprised. Everything that I've heard and that I know in this industry is that there's going to be at least 1 to maybe 2 price decreases by the time your home sells. And the average time on market is well over 30 days now. You're looking into 40, 45 days.
So that's a key factor as we discuss the topic. So
correct.
The bottom line is, again, it's basically a sales type position that a realtor is in. But what are they selling? They're selling themselves. They're selling their services. All right.
Right.
So how do you do that? How do you stand out? So the training is.
Well, I have you.
Right. Okay. So, but most people see me as the meteorologist and in weather, so it's hard for them to look at me as a realtor. So even though you have me, that doesn't, really do a whole lot other than the fact that it does, provide this formula here. So that's good. But it's still, anytime I follow or see something, I see him in a certain position. Like say it's your pastor at church, right? And so that's what I'm seeing him as. Now all of a sudden, if I see him selling air conditioners, I'm like, don't see us as a sales guy for air conditioners.
But you trust them.
It's a thing, right? But there's a trust factor,
Correct.
and there's a I know this guy factor, right?
Yes.
A friend factor. So that helps to overcome that. But it's a position. A lot of people can't make that jump. They can't. They have to see you in a box, and they can't allow you to
Right.
get outside that box. That's unfortunate because no one lives in a box. We all do various things in life. Some of us have multiple jobs. Some of us have multiple skills. But regardless, so that's kind of where that's at. Well,
Right.
so that's kind of the blueprint of where this goes. And you know as well as I do, they're good salesmen and they're bad salesmen. There's products that sell themselves, and there's some that don't sell themselves. Therefore, you've got to really polish a turd.
Right.
You know, so a lot of the industry teaches you how to polish a turd.
Right.
In this case, and that turd being you, because remember, you're the one on sale. So they focus how many times you can get in front of someone. All right, that's one of the basic things they teach.
Oh, they teach you persistence, to be very persistent, to teach you to be very aggressive, I'd say. Don't take no for an answer. Sort of work that angle the best way you can.
So examples of that is when they say don't take no for an answer, they really mean it, like 7 times. Pester that person. Remember, pester you, the client, you're the buyer, you're the seller. Pester you at least 7 times until you finally cave and you give in, you know, or you finally say get lost.
Right.
And
but that's all we're really looking for.
Right.
Is
And
to have communication.
yeah, it's the over. So in other words, let's just say an example. Let's say you've worked with a realtor, and all of a sudden you're getting email bombardment, text bombardment, phone call after phone
Yes.
call. You're like, gosh, would you leave me alone? I'm not ready, or I'm not ready, or I don't want to, or
Right.
whatever. Again, that's the reason, because they're trained. If it's a salesman on a cold call, you make 100 cold calls for that one that's going to say maybe.
Right.
You know, and it's that attitude in sales. And if you've worked in sales, you know that's the formula, right?
That's right.
You got it. It's the numbers game. Real estate, it's a
Yes.
numbers game too. It's no different, just a different industry.
Right. It's getting the person on the other end at the right time.
Yeah. So a lot of it is right time, right place.
Yes,
And
it's
'cause
timing.
it could be, you know, family issues come up or a job issue, whatever it is. But something, and if there's all of a sudden a realtor slides in at that moment, boom, you know, there you
Done.
go. You've got that connection. So to get that connection, though, you've got to be present of mind. You've got to be in your face nonstop.
You have to be top of mind for
Yeah.
even, I mean, your sphere of influence. So all your past clients, you have to be continuously reaching out.
And so you have a situation where you've got to be creative. You've
Yes.
got to get out there. You got to get your name out there. Whether you're buying a bunch of billboards, bus stop signs, you know, social media, you're doing dances on
Mailers.
TikTok, mailers, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a formula to try to get in front of you. All right. So let's say they did get in front of you.
Yes.
We've got that one phone call, that one maybe. Now it's time to manipulate you. And you're like, whoa, did you just go there? I did go there. Humans love to manipulate humans. It starts from a child and it keeps going, you know, in your adult years. It never stops.
Right.
And the idea is to always make you think it's your decision. It's your idea.
Yeah.
Now this, believe it or not, even goes outside of real estate, right? So it's in sales, but it's even in law enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got a book right there about it.
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay, well, let's show them.
I'm like, law enforcement. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is, where do I show it?
Yeah, it's right there in the front.
Right here.
Yeah, that's it.
Never Split the Difference.
Yeah,
by Chris Voss.
It's a good book.
Oh, my gosh. It's an amazing book.
He's made a few rounds in the talk
Yes.
circuits.
He has. He's a key top FBI negotiator.
Right.
For hostages.
So hostage situation.
Yeah.
All right. So
It's
you,
a great book.
in the real estate world, you're a hostage situation. You're the one holding a deal hostage, a potential
Right.
future deal hostage.
Yeah.
In other words, that closing table. You're holding it hostage. I, as a realtor, want to get to that closing table. Why? I have a motivation. My motivation is to feed my family, keep the lights on, pay the bills. You don't have that motivation. I do. So now I got to make sure I can get you there.
Right.
So now it's time to negotiate.
Right. Absolutely.
And so there's a lot of, where's your, your notes on that? Just some of the high points that he uses in hostage negotiation. This may resonate with you just in everyday life. Maybe your spouse does it to you. Maybe a salesman did it to you once. But what a couple of things that he points out.
Well, he wants you to get as many no's in the beginning, because all those no's lead to a yes eventually.
All right, now hold on. That's heavy because most
It
people
is
don't
very
think
heavy.
about that. Your initial response to anyone trying to sell you something or push something is, no, I'm not interested. No, I'm not interested. So the idea is to get a lot of those no's out of the way, because remember, this is messing with your head.
Yes.
All right? We're giving you secrets as to how your head is manipulated.
Yeah.
And at some point, you're going to get a yes. So
Right.
you have to ask a lot of questions for you that you can say no to up front
Yes.
to get those out of the way.
Yes.
And then slide one in where he gets a yes.
Yes.
You know, as
Exactly.
as the negotiator. And all of a sudden now, they've got you.
They have you right where they want you.
They have you right where they want you. You don't even know it. All right, so let's go ahead. That's another one.
Okay, so you want to do a lot of mirroring. So repeating what the person has said to you. And that enforces that you're listening to them. So you're starting to build that connection one-on-one.
So in the real estate world would be a good example of that.
So if I understand you correctly, you're looking at 2 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms in this particular area. So I'm mirroring exactly what they said. Now, I'm just using that as a quick reference
Sure.
because you kind of put me on the spot.
Well,
there.
yeah, no, that's fine. I want to. 'Cause-
But yeah, so you're mirroring. So you're building that connection now. By yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So this is, again, this is all human behavior, right? This
Yes.
is years of psychological study to find out how we tick, how we're motivated, how we move, how we think. And takes advantage of all those things. He's using it in hostage negotiation. Other people use it in business.
Right.
So that's another one.
Tactical empathy.
Ooh, that's a big word. I
That
like
is.
phrase.
Yes.
All right. So what's tactical empathy?
Tactical empathy, where you're relating to the person. So let's say you've had your home listed, it didn't sell with that other agent that you had for whatever reason, and then we come along, and I'm going to empathize with you. I'm going to say, I understand you've already gone through the process. I understand you had your home on market for 60 plus days. I understand you have to pack up on Sundays to go because we wanted to host an open house. So you're being relatable. You're understanding what they're going through.
Yeah. And again, this sounds almost like normal, right? It's like, well, yeah, of
Well-
course, I would hope for you to have some empathy in my situation.
Right.
Remember, the bottom line is to get you to the closing table. This is all a manipulation tactic used by psychologists, as far as the study part of it goes, and now put into practice in various fields. And so it's just one of those ways that it's done in real estate.
Right. Yeah.
What's another one?
That's all I have.
Is that what you have? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more in this book.
There's a lot more in that
There's
book,
a lot more.
right.
These
Okay.
were the key takeaways.
Those are
for
some of the
me.
ones that resonated with you
Yeah.
when you're reading it?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an example from a hostage negotiator
Yes.
on the FBI side about how they get that person to release, the one that's being held,
Yeah.
and to come to the table.
That's right, because he gives a lot of great incidences in this book where he uses all those steps.
He used it to buy a car.
Oh, he used it to buy a car. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another one there. It's the bad guy. I like the bad guy one. I'm a total dunce. You're gonna hate my guts. You know.
I know you're going to hate me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
You're going to think I'm a total jerk.
Yep. And
But
what he's done is he robbed you of your ability to say that first.
Right.
Or to think that first. Because
Yeah.
now once you've done that, I pulled the air out of that tension, out of that hatred, out of that seating. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you are a jerk.
So
And now you can move on.
Well, an example of that would be, oh, you're probably going to hate me. You're probably going to be really disappointed. And I'm approaching you now, the seller, Mr. Seller, let's say. We kind of misjudged on maybe the listing price. And I know you're really going to be disappointed in me. However, we need to lower the price. That's just
Right.
an example.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's not so much this is a bad thing. I'm just
No.
telling you that's just the way the human brain works.
Right.
So when we're calling this manipulation tactics, it can be a positive thing, but it also be a negative thing. So let's go
Right.
like a negative thing. All right. So a negative thing for a realtor who's
Right.
desperate, right? Remember, we're going back to the fact there's no money until there's a closing table
Right.
position. So let's say I haven't sold a house in 6 months. Okay?
Right.
Now, how do you live without help? You don't, right? It's
Right.
desperate times.
Well,
and
you're-
I've got to get a deal.
Right. And your bills are still coming in.
Right. And so I see an opportunity where I can represent the buyer and the seller. So technically I sell the house, right?
Which
And
is called dual agency.
it's called dual agency. Now, I've got the seller, I'm selling your house, your property, etc. A buyer comes in and they want to not even work with the realtor. Let's say that they're savvy enough to do it on their own for whatever reason. And you say, no, I'm going to be your buyer's agent also. And the person says, no, you're not. I don't need your services. And as the agent, you are wanting to double dip and get 2 commissions out of the deal. And so remember, you're behind in bills. You're now motivated to do something that is unethical. And you tell the buyer, hoping they don't know the difference,
Right.
that you are going to represent them as well.
Right.
And therefore, you get a commission on the buying side as well as the selling side. Now, a savvy buyer will look at that agent and go, I know what that is. That's dual agency. I didn't ask for that, and
Right.
I'm not accepting it. I'm rejecting your offer. And by you trying to press that on me, I am now turning you in to not only your broker, but the real estate commission. Now, how many people are going to know to think that way or talk that way?
They won't.
They won't.
Unless, again, like you said, they're savvy in their knowledge, or they're talking about their story to somebody else. And then they're a little bit more savvy than you might be,
Right.
in other words.
So there you go. There's an example of manipulation in a negative format and being unethical
Right.
for whatever reason. Remember, every human has their weaknesses, their flaws, their whatever gets them.
Whatever's motivating them to do what they're doing.
And if you think that some people have a hard time looking at themselves in the mirror when they wake up in the morning, the answer is no. They will bend you over backwards and sleep just fine, wake up just fine, and go do it again to the next person. That's that's the deal.
So I've had clients, because remember, I've been in this business for a lot of years, and luckily I've only come across a few bad eggs.
On the realtors or on the
realtors.
Okay.
Yes, and also with me being a real estate agent. So I would have buyers, and then they would go to an open house on a Sunday.
Okay, let's explain this.
Yes.
Start kind of from the beginning. If you don't know what an open house is, the bottom line is you have a realtor there present to sell your home, and they want to get exposure. So we do an open house usually on a Sunday afternoon. We leave it open. Anybody can come, usually your neighbors, because they're snooping around, see what the Joneses have. But then you'll get people from out of the neighborhood or out of the city coming in. They want to look at it. They want to buy it, etc. And they have an agent.
Right.
Those people, they're called buyers. They have a buyer's agent, which is helping them to find a home. But they went rogue, right? In other words,
They could have been driving by on their home, going home. They came across an open house, so they decided to pull in.
Yeah, just by themselves without talking to the buyer's agent. Okay, so they go in the house.
So in this instance, they're my buyers,
and they see you.
No.
So you're the buyer's agent in this case.
I'm the buyer's agent in this case.
Okay.
And I knew that they were going out on Sunday, and I always like to be with my buyers. In this particular instance, they just went on their own, and they informed me, hey, these are the houses that we went to. And I'm like, okay. One particular home, that agent that was representing them, or representing the home seller, had looked at my buyers and said, are you working with anybody? And they said, yeah, we have our realtor. They handed her my card. And that agent said, well, if you don't want to work with her, I can get you a better deal on this house if you make an offer with me.
Oh.
Now, my buyers were very loyal. Because I build a really good relationship and rapport with my buyers, and anybody that I'm working with. And they told me, I'm like, what in the world? That was a first for me. And let me tell you, it was my last.
Did you get that agent little who's and what's what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
So that's poaching. Right?
It is poaching. Yeah, it's not cool.
No, and it's not. It's frowned upon. It's not supposed to happen. But guess what?
People are people. People are human.
Manipulation tactics. Either greed and or desperation.
Yeah.
And they'll try to steal somebody out from under you.
And that's unethical.
So heads up. In other words, I want you to take from this is these tips so that you can be on the lookout. Right.
Even if you take one thing away from our live right now.
What's that?
At least one thing.
Oh, at least one thing?
At least one thing.
Okay.
Maybe multiple.
Maybe multiple.
But take at least one thing away.
Hopefully one thing. Okay. So in that situation, let's say you're the one that has, like, you say, for example, you hired us. And you just dropped by this neighborhood and you saw an open house sign. You can pop in there.
Sure.
And that realtor pulls that little trick on you.
Yes.
You now that you're educated, can call them out and go, wow, that's extremely unethical behavior. I just told you I was working with the realtor. I should report you. And watch how quickly they backpedal.
Right.
How they change their tune. Oh, no, I wasn't insisting I was trying to steal you away.
Right.
You know, I wasn't going to pad my pocket and steal money off the table from the other person that you have a relationship with. I wasn't going to do that. I was just, curious.
Right.
You're going to find that real fast.
Oh, my gosh.
And that person is a turd. So,
That's not someone that's trustworthy.
So let's see. Some other things on the, I talked about it briefly on the training side for realtors. Stay away from the talk about how expensive things are and focus on
rates.
your monthly payment.
Right.
What you can afford.
Yes.
And it's an old car game. You know, and when you go to buy a new car, same tactic, right? That's what I'm saying. Once I got into this, I realized how the whole sales industry is a lot of garbage. You know, it's a lot of trickery. It's a lot of manipulation. It's dirty. It's evil. I detest it. So when I saw it in this industry, I was like, screw that. I'm not doing that crap. The bottom line is if you can afford a home, you can afford a home. If you can't, my job is to convince you that you can.
Right.
Oh, no. I'm going to set you up for failure. I'm going to try to get you into a home you can't afford. Now, all of a sudden, now you've lost something. Maybe you got something repo because now you can't pay your payments. Or now you have to skip out on meals for the kids. And you think as me, that shady realtor is going to lose any sleep over that? Heck no. I've already forgotten your name. You mean nothing to me at that point. You're the closing so that I could pay my bills and get my food on the table. All about me. Right. So that's an example how that is a negative thing. That's manipulation tactic. The monthly payment's important, sure. But so is the interest rate. So is the fact that if a home costs twice as much now as it used to, and your boss didn't increase your salary to compensate that. It is what it is, and it stinks. So right now, there are a lot of people renting because of that, because rent prices have come down a little bit, or at least flattened, versus the home prices. And if that's the position you're in, there's nothing wrong with that. I got no problem with renting. I got no problem. If you're not in a position to afford a home, don't stress out and make yourself into that because it's, quote, the American dream. That's conditioning. That's propaganda. There's a lot of stuff that happened in the old days because it worked in those days. If it doesn't work in today's market, in today's life, then it doesn't. And people have to adjust. But you have to remember, in this industry, for the realtors, everybody wants their cut. The broker wants their cut. The real estate commission wants their cut. NAR wants their cut. Everybody's pulling money out of the realtor's pocket.
How about the tax man?
The tax man's always getting their cut. Everybody gets their cut. So that's even additional pressure on the realtor to do unethical behavior, more manipulation, more getting you not to focus on things that you really should know to have a big picture of the items that you know you can even afford the home. So those are all good things to keep in mind.
Yes.
I know we got a couple of questions.
Yeah, Jeremy just came in with one.
Okay, how bad would it be? The house is like $300,000 and you offer $250,000, but then you want the seller to pay closing costs. Is that bad because you offer a lower price but want them to pay the closing costs? Well, no, because in general, the buyer always has to pay closing costs. Now, it may not come out of their pocket, but on the...
Okay, I think he's wanting his closing costs paid. Each party pays a closing cost. So the seller pays closing costs, the buyer pays. He's asking, is it bad because you offer a lower price and you want them to pay your closing costs as well?
Oh,
yes.
I see.
So him being the buyer wants to come in at a lower price and have his closing costs also covered by the seller.
Is that how I'm reading that?
Yes. Yeah, that's how I'm understanding it.
I don't know. Well, answer it that way. If it's not that way, read to your question. But there are always incentives.
So again, I don't know what the house looks like that you're wanting to offer on, given that it's a $300,000 home. You're coming in $50,000 under list price. Depends now what's the condition of the home. Is there anything structural with it? How many days on market has it been on? Like how long has it been on market?
Right.
Those are all factors considering your price. Now, and then you want to throw in closing costs. I think you're asking
Yeah.
In my opinion, you're asking for a lot.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so what would make that happen is a desperate seller, right, who just needs to get rid of it by this date, because maybe they have 2 mortgages, or they've got to move like overseas. I don't know. There's something.
Well, that's where the 2 real estate agents now need to communicate together.
Mm-hmm.
And if that seller has agreed upon that agent that's representing the seller to discuss his motives behind moving, that agent then can discuss it with your buyer's agent, Jeremy.
Right.
Yeah.
But in general terms, for your question, you're asking a lot. Doesn't hurt. Sometimes people can get insulted, though.
What's the worst they can do? So 2 things can happen in this scenario. They'll reject your offer outright, like they won't even acknowledge it, or they're going to counter you back.
Right.
So really, you always want to keep the communication open. So you always want the counter.
Right.
Always want a counter.
And the realtors always talk with one another to facilitate that whole transaction.
Absolutely.
So, and you may say like, hey, buyer Jeremy here, it is a lower offer. We're aware of that.
Your house has been on market for how many days now? It's got this and this and this wrong with it.
Right.
Now, cosmetically, as a real estate agent, we don't care. Cosmetic issues. If you don't like the color, you want to tear out the carpet, that's all on you. It's structurally, how sound is that home? Are you having to redo? And that again would stem down to the home inspection.
Yeah.
So how good was that home inspection? Does the AC need replacing? Does the furnace, the roof, the windows?
Yeah, there's some
those
big
are
ticket items in
all
there.
Variables that
For
you
sure.
need to take into account.
But if it's a new home or relatively new and everything's perfect,
Right.
yeah, you're asking a lot. But hey, doesn't hurt to ask. You said.
I'd be very curious how you make out.
Yeah.
Send me a message.
Send us a message. Okay, so back to anything else you could think of in relation to manipulation that we haven't talked about that would be helpful for them to know. Watch out for poaching. Watch out for dual agency.
Right.
Pay attention to how you're being spoken to.
Well, I think a big thing that we're sort of missing too, back when the term was date the rate, marry the house.
Oh.
I wonder how that's sitting well with a lot of those folks that got tied into that.
If your realtor ever said that, you had a bad realtor.
Because you can't predict the future, and a lot of economists were thinking that the rates were going to be down to the 5s in 2024. There's no chance.
No.
We're lucky if we're going to get down into the 6s. They're supposed to do 3 proposed rate decreases still for 2024. And
actually, we did some shows where we talked about what the experts said or they thought would happen, and they thought we would have like 3 rate cuts.
Yes.
And by the end of the year, we would be in the upper 5s.
Right.
Well, we're in the middle of the year, and we're still right around 7.
Yeah.
So, and the economy again is doing what it's doing. The Fed's saying what they're saying. So, everybody's flipping on their projections. All of a sudden, they're nowhere near as positive as they were.
Right. Well, as horrible as it is, they need the employment rate to come down. They need more unemployment to happen because it's too strong right now.
And they were also at one point, your realtor may have been pushing you to buy because of the rate. And so don't worry, you can refinance when the rates go down.
Well, and that's date the rate.
Yeah.
So.
And if you look now, I don't know, there's nobody refinancing because of the fact they just dropped so much. If anything's refinancing, it's because credit card bills have gone up. Because remember, we have real inflation besides what the government tells you.
Right.
How do you know that? Well, because you're having to refinance to pay off your credit card bills because you can't afford to feed a family of 5 or whatever.
Right.
So those are all real legit issues. And the realtor, again, is typically not on your side when it comes to those decisions because those are all things you have within your homestead that you have to worry about.
Right.
Remember, their end of the game is to get you to the table.
Well, I think some of the qualifying questions that you need to ask your real estate agent, of course, unless they're family. I mean, how many of you guys know families members that are real estate agents, or your best friend's cousin is a real estate agent, right? But you really should be sitting down. And this is something that I had to encounter quite a bit when I was in the Canadian market, was when you're competing to work with a buyer or you're competing to even to work with a seller, they want to know what your production rate is. What's your production rate? How long have you been in the business? Those are good numbers.
No, but I hate that.
I know you do. I never liked it either because
garbage.
I'm like, wait a second, you're hiring me as the person.
Right. Now I'm going to tell you why it's garbage.
Yeah.
Anybody who tells you that is garbage. And I'll tell you why.
Right.
Because first off, if I'm the biggest con man in the world and I sell 1,000 homes, how's that supposed to make me better? No, it just means I'm a better con. So selling the number of homes means nothing. In the market that we're in today, as a realtor, you're lucky to sell 4 homes the way things are going. All right. Now, how is that supposed to judge? Oh, you're not a very good realtor. You only sold 4 homes. Oh, yeah. Maybe it's because I'm the most ethical realtor that ever walked the planet, and I didn't convince a bunch of people to do something they couldn't even afford, and therefore I only sold 4 homes because they were all legit, all moral, all ethical.
That's all in your presentation.
Yeah.
When you're talking to a potential seller or buyer. I
Right.
always like to have buyers interviews. Now, whether lately it's been just over the phone, I've been talking with my buyers. But a lot of times I'd like to meet in person.
Yeah.
So,
Well, sure. It's an interview process. We want to interview you. You want to interview us. Make sure we're a good fit. That we click. We both understand each other.
Right.
We know what's on the table. We know what's expected.
that's right.
And we talked about this in prior episodes, but obviously there's a contract involved that you sign to do business with, where we
Right.
promise a certain set of services, and you promise to stay with us during this time frame. And not go rogue and go hire 3 other agents, not tell them about the other 2 or 3 other
Well,
agents.
nobody should ever have more than one real estate agent
No.
working for them. It just gets too confusing.
Yeah. Now,
Really.
but you do need to watch out for bad realtors. Remember, this topic is for manipulation tactics. That realtor should be sending you homes that fit your criteria, and not homes that don't fit your criteria. Okay, so for example, again, manipulation tactic. Remember, I'm the bad realtor. I gotta make bill, right? I gotta pay the bill man. So you're looking for a home of $200,000, okay? And I go, you know what? I gotta get a little extra on this deal. I'm gonna send you some homes at $250, and I'm gonna convince you that that's what you really need to be looking at, $250. And remember, you've gone to your lender at this point, and the lender's like, "Ooh, that's
top
that's
max.
on the top end, and you sure you want to do that?" Well, our realtor's saying that's really the only homes we're gonna find is in 250. What? Nonsense.
Right.
So again, who's in your favor? Who's looking out for you? It's not
Right.
the realtor.
Right.
So that's something to watch out for. You just honestly, you got a lot of a lot of discernment. You got to pay attention to the words.
Right.
You have to find out what their motivation is. It's here's an example. All right, I'm going to use what you said earlier against you in this way. All right. So remember, you're interviewing us, the realtor. Here's the deal. Well, Mr. Realtor or Mrs. Realtor in your case, how many homes have you sold this year? And you say 1, and it says June. Okay. Well, Mr. Realtor, you're being very aggressive with me. Do you have another job? Because I know you can't pay the bills on one home sale. And as the agent, you say, well, most certainly, actually, I don't have another job. This is it. Oh, so you're desperate that I do this for you because you don't get paid. You see how that all of a sudden works in that aspect? Whereas if the realtor said, oh, actually, I sold 5 homes this year, and I'm not going to pressure you at all. Everything's good. And you say, okay, I'm good with that. And or maybe you're a realtor and you do have a part-time job. And you say, honestly, I just sell however many homes come my way from people I like helping and doing business with.
Right.
And I'm not worried about the number. I have another job that pays the bills and puts food on the table. And if I sell a home that helps someone get into their dream home, great. If I don't, great. And that's the other way to look at it.
Right.
So when you interview someone, you can kind of pick out what their motivation is just by those type of questions.
Sure.
And in the realtor world, this is I missed this. I'm glad I came up with this idea. In the real estate world, I want you to know something. They hate part-time realtors. They detest them. They're like outcasts. They're not the real realtors. They're not the ones grinding, feet to the pavement, and they're the here for just the easy money. That is the nonsense we hear in this market.
There's no easy money in this industry.
There's no easy money, and those clowns.
Fallacy.
Those clowns are living in fairy tale make-believe, and I'll tell you why. Because their revenue, their income, isn't tied to a closing every 30, 60, 90, 4 months from now. Their income is steady and coming in from various sources for their talks and their training and their everything else, right?
Sure.
So what's funny is if the realtors, let's say just make this easy. Say there's 1,000 realtors, all right, period. And you're making money off those 1,000 realtors. and you keep them motivated. Get out there, hit the payment, do the cold calls, convince those buyers take them from a no, take them to a yes. We can do it. You get all that nonsense. All right. And you say, realtors, you can't be part-time. You got to be full-time. I want you working every day, nose to the pavement. Now, here's the deal. If those realtors say, I'm out, there's no money in this. The market stinks. I'm not going to lie to somebody and try to tell them they can afford something they can't. I said all of a sudden, they all quit. And you went from 1,000 to 10 realtors. Then those people are all going to falter. They're all going to fail. They're all going to collapse. Well, those people is just like the real estate world industry in perpetuity. So that all of them, from the organization, from the broker level, they all taking their cut from the realtors doing all the hard, heavy lifting. If all the realtors quit because the market's terrible, all those people now collapse. All those manipulators, teaching you how to do this, collapse. They all lose their jobs. So it's in their best interest of survival to convince the realtors not to quit, to convince the realtors don't pay attention to the market, don't pay attention to the interest rates, don't pay attention to the fact that homes now double than what they used to be just a few years ago. Don't pay attention to any of that. Let's just focus on you getting into the head of the buyer and the seller and convincing them to get to the closing table. Let's just focus on that. Well, of course, because if you focus on reality, it's an ugly picture. And when I helped you out in this industry, I had no idea what I was getting into.
I did.
But it was COVID was hitting, and nobody knew nothing about what was going to happen for jobs and stuff. I said, well, I better learn another trade.
That's right.
Right, because they never know what's going to happen. And plus, I could help you out with this because for marketing, promotion, like what we're doing, we both need to be realtors so that it's legal and you don't get into trouble with blah blah blah, and you don't have people, whatever. So did it the right way, which is fine. I learned a lot, but I also learned this industry is hurting overall, like hurting very very badly, and as a full-time realtor, those are few and far between because of the way the market is. The ones that are probably going to be the full-time realtors are the ones that have been in it for so long. They have a lot of built-up clients, so they can go to repeat clients, right? Referral base of who they've been working with.
Well, that's most of their business would be referrals.
Yeah, referrals and the repeats.
Right.
So that's where most of their business comes from.
That's correct.
So in other words, doing the whole raw, feet to the pavement, cold call this and get in front of that and
door knock,
and that's nonsense because in this market that doesn't work. But that's the old formula. It's an old sales formula that goes for any industry, and unfortunately, it just doesn't work. So you have a lot of realtors that are part-time or got out, and I'm sure that trend will continue for the rest of this year.
So I know when I first started in this industry again in the Canadian market, you had to be full-time. You were not allowed to have a part-time job. And the ones that did have part-time jobs, if another real estate agent caught them or saw them doing a part-time job, they were heavily reprimanded, where they had to quit their part-time job and concentrate on real estate full-time. Now, it wasn't up until 2020, if memory makes me, 2019, they actually changed that ruling. It was about time that realtors could have a part-time job.
Sounds like mafia.
So when I came out here, back, starting in 2018, I was like, you can have a part-time job out here? Because that wasn't heard of. So I had no idea, although there's double the amount of agents out here than I'm used to. So double or even triple. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Similarities, but a lot of differences at the same time.
So just so you know, you will not find another realtor that tells you all this stuff. She was nervous. I'll be honest with you. She's like, oh, we want to talk about all this stuff? I'm like, yeah, because I'm all about transparency. I don't care. I'm not in this business to make friends with other realtors. I don't care if they shun me. I give two craps about what people think about me already. In my other job, you think I'm going to care what a few realtors have to say? No. As long as I'm ethical, moral, and I don't violate the rules of how you do transactions, there's nothing else to worry about. I don't care what about my competition thinks. Who cares?
That's right.
So I got no problem telling you the truth and telling you what we learn on the inside about how you're supposed to treat you as the client. What the methods we're taught and trained to use, and how they're similar to other industries. Like FBI, for example.
Tie in.
Yeah, everything kind of ties
in. Techniques tie in. But honestly, like in the end, we're people.
Yeah.
I relate to you like another person. I'm not a pushy person.
No, actually, you're really passive on that
Yeah,
stuff.
I really am.
Yeah. And
So you want to look at a dozen homes on a Saturday? Let's do it.
right. Well, speaking of which, let's wrap this up.
Yep.
If you do need some help, obviously you can ask us any question. Doesn't matter what it is. We're going to answer it and give you the truthful answer. We got
Yes.
nothing to hide here.
That's right.
So reach out to us, teamtotalrealty.com. There's a phone number you can call and text anytime.
Right.
Doesn't even if you have another realtor that you're using, that's fine. Don't obviously put us in that position of uncomfortableness because we're not going to steal you away or anything.
No, never.
And if you are working a realtor, you have to abide by that contract. And then if it
Yes.
runs out and they're not really treating you very well, you're not having a good relationship with them, you don't have to stay with them. All right. So there's nothing that says you have to keep renewing. It's like with anything. It's a relationship. If it doesn't like it, you go separate ways. No harm, no foul.
That's right.
But once that's officially done, then you can approach us, and because we're going to ask you that. That's the first thing we're going to ask you.
I always do.
Yeah, because we're not going to get into any of this drama and
Yes.
nonsense. We're not in that. Don't care. So if you come to us legit, we'll be legit right back. But that's for representing you as the buyer. Obviously, if you're the seller and you just want to sell your home, same idea. Reach out to us anytime. We'll do you a fair appraisal and tell you what the market's paying at that time.
That's right.
And that's the other thing is, we're going to give you the honest feedback as to what your home is worth in today's market, not what it was
In
worth.
today's dollar.
Yeah, not
Yes.
what it was worth last year, not what
No.
your neighbor sold it for 6 months ago.
Right.
And if you fight us and you say, you know what, I want to sell it for this. Well, that'll come with caveats. A lot of times we'll say, okay, tell you what, Mr. Seller, we'll do it your way.
I usually give you a 1 week.
Yeah.
I'll give you 1 week and one open house
Because-
at your price.
Because what happens is in that week, you will find out how quickly, how well you're priced compared to everybody else.
Right.
And in this market, homes are getting priced to move. Because remember our number, 477 listings currently, 438 price decreases.
Right.
So that was a lot of sellers that try to talk their agent into listing it higher, or that was an agent that didn't want to lose you, going back to manipulation, because remember, they have to put food on their table. So that agent may know, let's say, for example, your home is worth $350,000 and you want $400 for it. And your realtor knows there's no way you're getting $400, right? And your home's really only worth $350. Maybe it's not even worth $350 because there's some other things wrong with it. Okay. And so your realtor knows the back of his head, but that realtor doesn't want to lose you because you'll go to some other realtor that said, no, I'll do your house for $400, right? So that realtor's going, okay, I'll do your house for $400, no matter what you want to do it. And then what happens? You're on this list here of a price decrease with 400 something other people. So that's another game that's played in that industry. And so like she said, we will argue with you and we're going to tell you why that it's not worth what you think it is. But if you're going to press us on it, it's not that we don't want to lose you as a client. If we have a good relationship and we like each other, what we'll do is we'll negotiate. And negotiate that is, like she said, okay, fine. We'll give you a week. We're going to see what kind of movement we get. If we get phone calls, texts, or if we get drive-bys, if we get someone wanting to see it. And if there's absolutely nothing and it's crickets,
well, then we know.
Then we know. And you should have listened to us and or your other realtor at that time because you were, I understand. It's a personal thing. You want the most, dollar. And we're at the same level. It's not that we're against that. We're trying to get you the best bang for your buck, the most dollar you can get, but we have to do it comparatively so to everyone else.
That's correct.
So we go with all your extras, storm shelters, new roof, new AC. We factor all that stuff in because we're on your team. When we're working for you, we want to get you the most money. So it's not like we're working against you. It's just sometimes sellers will get a little excited and they'll say, well, I want an extra X fill in the spot, right? So just let you know, in that case, we can work with you, but any realtor that doesn't have that conversation with you and just says, okay, no problem.
Well, that would be a red flag for
That's
me.
a red flag. All right. There needs to be pushback with reality, and then the reasons why. And then if you guys want to negotiate and compromise, that's fine. But for a realtor out of the blue that knows there's no way that house is going that way.
Well, think of it this way: like the sellers are considered our bosses because we're working for the seller.
True.
So you're hiring us,
Right.
to do a job.
All right. I think we beat this dead horse to the ground.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay. Well, again, if you guys need anything, just reach out to us anytime, 24/7. That's another thing about realtors. It's a 24/7 job.
Well, I mean,
365. I mean, you do make time for family and outing events, right? But otherwise, there's no 9 to 5 hours. Let's put it that way.
no. I've been doing deals sometimes at midnight.
Yeah, sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
To get the deal done because there's a lot of back and forth negotiations or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's right.
And there's issues that come up. And we had this recent deal going on here. We're closing. At first, it looked like it was going to be relatively straightforward, and then there's just a lot of issues started showing up, and nature happens, right? You can
Sure.
all of a sudden you get a flood, because of a thunderstorm or whatever, or because of a plumbing issue. You never know. So stuff will always come up, and that can happen at the 11th hour. And so, it's a lot of work to get things done because now you got to bring in contractors. Now you have to extend times, and now you have to deal with price points. So it can get really messy really fast.
That's right.
Yeah, unexpected stuff does happen.
That's right. And then there are the ones that just go so smooth. It's like, wow, something's got to go wrong.
Actually, I like
going
those
too
because it
good.
makes up for all the ones that don't go smooth. Or, when you're house hunting for 6 months or 8 months or 9 months, and then you find a buyer that finds exactly what they want in just like 2 weeks. Like, oh, thank God. So otherwise you go crazy.
You get a mix.
Yeah, you do. It's
It
all
all depends on
balances
the
out.
circumstances.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
That's it.
Thanks again for joining us.
Appreciate it. And we do these about every couple of weeks. I think we were behind a week on this one.
We were, yeah. But there was storms, I think.
Yeah, and this time of the year with storms, sometimes I just can't do it. I get pulled.
And
totally
I don't
through.
know how to do it on my own. All this equipment here. Oh my gosh. I wouldn't even know how to start it.
It's easy peasy.
You'd see me with my cell phone. Couple
Yeah,
lights.
maybe you should. Real estate with Jody.
Oh yeah, my gosh.
You don't need me. All right, everybody.
All
We'll
right.
see you on the next podcast.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Good night.